I want to bring in our panel for more. Jillian Melcher, Wall Street Journal editorial page writer. Harmeet, Dhillon, Republican strategist and trial lawyer. And Gina Loudon, Donald J. Trump for President Advisory Board member. Gina, that's your old stomping grounds. Not necessarily the border, but you're familiar with that area very well as a former San Diego resident.
No, right there on the border, Charles. You are exactly right. And the television now is depicting all the things that I've watched and been so upset about for the last 2 years. Now the whole world is seeing what I watched every day. And that is people mocking our laws in the United States, demanding to come into our country, lawyers being paid off by the likes of Soros. This could not be a better campaign ad for the 2018 midterms and for building the wall.
You know, Harmeet, this has been very well orchestrated to have a lot of U.S. help, including lawyers. And what I'd like to get straight for myself and the audience on asylum seekers, who must we accept? Because I saw photos of people holding up signs saying domestic violence, political unrest, family reunification, even transgender discrimination. Are these the sort of categories that were automatically supposed to allow people to come into America and seek asylum?
Well, there is no automatic admission on the basis of a claim, but basically the rule is a very simple one. You are entitled to seek asylum if you can state a credible fear of persecution in your home country on the basis of some defined characteristics, and so it's categories rather, including sexual orientation, transgender, religion, political activism, and then there's a catch-all category which these people are taking advantage of, which is membership in a social group that is disfavored. And I've sat in court in the Ninth Circuit just 2 weeks ago and watched a number of arguments where lawyers volunteer lawyers argued that if you lived in one part of El Salvador and you had to cross into the gang territory of a different gang across a bridge, that put you into the category of somebody in a protected social group because one gang would think you're a member of the other gang by crossing that path. And that's basically the whole country. If you have a gang-ridden country, anybody moving from one place in town to the other, that's not a tenable system. And so this catch-all category is what these lawyers in the caravan in Mexico are coaching people to apply for the most part.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of coaching, Jillian. And listen, America has prided itself all along for accepting people from people who need our help and need to come into this country. But this feels like it was also orchestrated, like a politically motivated orchestration to sort of embarrass the country and more specifically the administration.
Well, I do want to point out, I think we have to make a distinction between the people who are climbing over the wall, crossing illegally, and those who are trying to go through the asylum process, which, as your previous guest mentioned, is a legal process. They are trying to legally enter the United States. So I want to make that distinction. That said, I think what we really need to address here is the push factor. I mean, we're talking about El Salvador. In 2017, in January, the country made news for the first day in 2 years where there hadn't been a homicide. We're talking about the highest homicide rates in the entire world. And I think when you've got a situation like that, when you've got a labor shortage in the United States acting as a pull factor, we need to be really cautious about not doing things to make that situation worse.
But one of the reasons we have a labor shortage is we have a skills shortage. So do we need to accept more people without those skills? In other words, we got people here, they just don't know how to weld. Do we need more folks who mainly come here and not know how to weld?
Well, I think sometimes there's a skills mismatch. Certainly skilled trades, but also, even before we were cracking down on immigration, there were fields where farmers couldn't get all of their crops picked, fruits rotting out in the fields because they couldn't find enough workers. So I do think there's a demand for labor across the spectrum.
Gina, when you watch these guys scale the fence, to me it seems like, wow, you are certainly making a case that this is a porous nation, and it makes me want to say, how do we build a more effective barrier?
Well, exactly, Charles. Like I said, it's like a scripted ad for Build the Wall. And as Donald Trump says, I think they just made the wall 10 feet higher. We used to sit over there on the other side of that border, Charles, and watch people climb over. It's a laughing stock in San Diego. And this is the other thing. It forces legal immigrants to recognize how people are cheating the system that they waited for. And as far as the whole asylum argument that Jillian made, Very, very few of these particular migrants are really dealing with an asylum issue. They've been taught by their Soros-funded lawyers, Charles, to say one word in English, and that's asylum. So that
Gina,
they can
I think
cheat
that's
our
honestly
system
something
and
that the
butt in
courts
line
should be
ahead
able
of
to
those who are
decide. I mean,
waiting,
we keep
honestly.
talking about the importance of rule of law
Right,
in
the
this
laws need
situation.
to change.
And I do think, okay, so the laws need to change. I agree with you on that. But when we're talking about illegal versus legal, this is legal entry. And I frankly believe that the immigration courts are the ones that are best equipped to decide.
Well, ladies, President Trump
Well,
actually.
they're all illegal.
Charles, Harmeet, let's
Even
listen
those
to,
going through a legal process,
let's
you know, that
listen
doesn't
to-
make sense.
No, that Harmeet said that, but let's listen to what President Trump had to say because he touched on this as well, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Look at our southern border and our weak and obsolete immigration laws. They are obsolete and they are weak and they are pathetic. And there's no country in the world that has laws like we do. They've got to change, and they've got to change now for the safety of our country.
Harmeet, obsolete, weak, and pathetic. Does that put it in a nutshell?
Well, you know, I'm an immigrant, first of all. I'm a legal immigrant. Second of all, I'm the only person on this panel who's actually argued asylum cases in front of the courts, and I've gotten asylum for people. And so it angers me as a person who believes that there are many credible people who fear violence and persecution in their countries, that this joke is happening here at our southern border. These people are not in the same category as somebody who's being chased by people because of their religion or because of any of these factors that are traditional asylum grounds. And number two, they've been in a safe country for several weeks. These people have been crossing across a safe country, and they have had an opportunity to seek asylum at a previous country. Now, the law is they can seek it anywhere, but it doesn't mean that America has an obligation just because you shout the word asylum at the border that we have to take you. And one more problem here that the president has talked about as well is there's this huge loophole in our immigration laws for so-called unaccompanied minors. If you come to the border, even if you're a gang member, and gangs have been using this loophole to get into the country,
right.
You come into the country and you're a minor and you say, I'm unaccompanied. Under a court decree, the government can only hold you for 20 days total. So what they do is they bring these people in, they release them to a so-called sponsor, and then only 3.5% of those people are ever deported, ever leave the country, regardless of the merits. And a lot of them are gang members. This is a real huge problem in our country.
They know how to game the system, that's for sure. I think this all highlights the fact that we do need to revamp the entire process. Thank you, ladies, very much.